The temperature outside is -10. You've been in it for 2 hours. You stopped shivering about 15 minutes ago. And that's the moment everything gets genuinely dangerous. Because most people think stopping shivering means you're getting warmer. You're not. It means your body just gave up trying. This is what the last hour looks like. And almost none of it is what you'd expect. Let's start at the beginning. Because to understand what hypothermia actually does to you, you need to understand what your body is doing before it kills you. Your core temperature right now, sitting wherever you are, is approximately 37 degrees Celsius, 98.6 Fahrenheit. Your body defends that number the way a country defends its border. It is non-negotiable. Every system you have, your heart, your brain, your blood vessels, is calibrated to function at exactly that temperature. Shift it by even 2 degrees in either direction and things start going wrong. Shift it by 6 and you are out of time. Hypothermia begins when your core temperature drops below 35 degrees Celsius. Not your skin temperature, not how cold your hands feel, your core, the deep interior of your body where your organs live. And the process of getting there is not dramatic. It doesn't announce itself. It creeps. The first thing that happens is vasoconstriction. Your body pulls blood away from your extremities, your fingers, your toes, your ears, your nose, and redirects it inward toward your heart, your lungs, your brain. This is survival logic. Your body is making a decision. Sacrifice the edges, protect the center. It is a rational choice. It is also the reason people lose fingers and toes to frostbite. The body doesn't abandon them carelessly. It abandons them deliberately to keep you alive a little longer. At the same time, shivering begins. This is your body's emergency heat generator. Muscles contracting rapidly, burning energy to produce warmth. It's inefficient and exhausting, but it works, at least for a while. A healthy adult shivering hard can generate up to 5 times their normal resting heat output. The problem is that shivering burns through your energy reserves fast, and once those reserves are gone, the shivering stops. Not because you're warm, because you've run out of fuel to keep running the engine. This is where most people make the fatal mistake. The shivering stops, and they feel better, calmer, maybe even a little warm. They think they've turned a corner. They haven't. They've just crossed one. By the time your core temperature reaches 32 degrees Celsius, something is happening in your brain that you will not be able to detect from the inside. Your cognitive function is degrading, not slowly, not gradually, rapidly, and without warning. The neurons in your prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for judgment, decision-making, and understanding consequences, are slowing down. The chemical reactions that power your thoughts are temperature dependent. Cold them by a few degrees and they don't just work less efficiently, they start producing the wrong answers entirely. This is why people found dead from hypothermia are sometimes found without their clothes. It's called paradoxical undressing. As the core temperature drops, the muscles that were constricting the blood vessels near the skin begin to fatigue and relax. Blood suddenly floods back to the surface. The skin gets warm. The person, whose brain is no longer capable of processing what is actually happening to them, interprets this as overheating, so they take their clothes off in -10-degree weather because their brain told them they were too hot. Researchers estimate this occurs in up to 50% of hypothermia deaths. Half of all people who freeze to death spend their final minutes removing their own protection. The cold didn't trick them, their own brain did. Around 30 degrees Celsius, your heart begins to behave erratically. The electrical system that coordinates your heartbeat is disrupted by the cold. You begin experiencing cardiac arrhythmias, irregular rhythms, misfiring signals, beats that come too early or not at all. At this point, your pulse is slow and faint. Your blood pressure is dropping. The blood itself is thickening slightly as the body's fluid regulation breaks down, making it harder to pump through narrowing vessels. Your breathing has slowed too. Each breath is shallower than the last. You are taking in less oxygen with every cycle. The cells throughout your body are running low. And here is where it gets strange. Because at around 28 to 29 degrees Celsius, something almost merciful happens. The pain stops. Not because anything has improved, but because the nerve signals carrying pain to your brain are moving through tissue that is too cold to conduct them properly. You go numb. Not just in your fingers, everywhere. Your body, which has been in a state of biological emergency for the past hour, suddenly feels almost peaceful. Researchers who study near-death hypothermia survivors describe a remarkably consistent pattern at this stage: a sense of calm, a feeling of warmth that isn't real. Some describe wanting to sleep, sleep, which is the most dangerous impulse possible and also the most overwhelming. The brain, now running on minimum power, starts to power down non essential systems. Consciousness is not considered essential, not by a body trying to survive. This is the moment people lie down in the snow. Terminal burrowing is what researchers call what happens next in some cases. As the brain's most primitive survival instincts take over from higher cognition, people crawl into small enclosed spaces, under beds, into closets, behind furniture, into snowbanks. It appears to be an ancient involuntary behavior, something deep in the brainstem that was built for hibernating mammals and somehow never fully left us. People found in the final stages of hypothermia are sometimes found curled tightly into themselves in impossible corners, as if they were trying to become smaller, warmer, hidden. They were not choosing this. It was chosen for them by a part of the brain that was operating completely below the level of conscious awareness. By the time terminal burrowing happens, the person experiencing it almost certainly doesn't know they're doing it. At 25 degrees Celsius, you lose consciousness. Not dramatically, not all at once. The lights dim rather than go out. At 20 degrees, the heart may stop entirely. Cellular activity across the body slows to almost nothing. Metabolism drops so low that some researchers describe the body at this point as being in a state almost resembling suspended animation. Technically, clinical death has arrived. And here is the part that nobody expects. You might not be dead. There are documented cases, multiple, verified, recorded in medical literature, of people whose core temperatures dropped below 20 degrees Celsius, whose hearts stopped, who showed no signs of brain activity, who were revived, fully, without permanent damage. The most famous is Anna Bågenholm, a Swedish medical student who fell through ice while skiing in 1999 and spent 80 minutes trapped beneath the frozen surface. Her core temperature when she was recovered was 13.7 degrees Celsius. Her heart had been stopped for over an hour. She was technically, measurably dead by every clinical definition available. She made a full recovery. Her doctors later explained that the extreme cold had actually protected her brain during cardiac arrest. The same cold that was killing her had slowed her cellular metabolism so dramatically that her brain cells weren't consuming oxygen they didn't have. They were simply waiting, which leads to a phrase that emergency medicine physicians now use for hypothermia patients, one that has changed how resuscitation is approached in extreme cold cases. The phrase is this: you are not dead until you are warm and dead, meaning you don't stop trying to save someone whose heart has stopped in the cold until you have re-warmed them to normal temperature and tried again, because the cold that killed them may have also preserved them. The human body, at its absolute limit, is stranger and more resilient than almost anything else in nature. It makes decisions you're not aware of. It sacrifices parts of itself to protect other parts. It tricks your mind into compliance when compliance is the only thing that might extend your survival by another hour. And sometimes, at the very bottom of it, when everything has stopped and the temperature has dropped to numbers that shouldn't be compatible with life, it simply waits. The last thing to go is not the heart. It's not the lungs. It's not even the brain in any meaningful structural sense. The last thing to go is warmth. A warmth that was there from your first breath and that your body spent its entire existence fighting to keep. Pulling blood from your fingers to protect it, burning muscle to generate it, dismantling itself piece by piece just to hold on to it for a few more minutes. It is, when you look at it that way, one of the most determined things a living thing has ever done. Just to stay warm, just to stay here, just a little longer.